There's a new kind of retreat experience in Utah that's taking on one of our nation's most taboo and destructive challenges.
Interview take 1.
1 in 5 children are sexually abused by the age of 18. But society says, ooh, this isn't a safe topic to talk about. At some point, we have to stop looking away and believe the research. Doesn't matter what socioeconomic class you come from, doesn't matter race or ethnicity, it's happening in every community in our country.
I didn't share my story with anyone. I was in a lot of pain.
Abuse can actually change the structure of the brain. It forms neural pathways that can become ingrained patterns later on as you get into adulthood. And the options for survivors of child sexual abuse are limited.
Which just reinforces the isolation that survivors feel.
That's why Chris and his team are taking a new approach. In order to bring survivors out of the shadows, they have to show them they're not alone.
Trauma happens in isolation. Healing happens in a compassionate community.
So far, their model is showing promising results. But what can it teach us about how to finally break the cycle of sexual abuse in our country?
This is Stand Together Presents. Stories, ideas, and advice from changemakers tackling our biggest challenges.
1 in 5, according to the CDC. 20% of kids. That's tough to hear.
I grew up in a rural area next to a fruit farm and spent most of my time running around in the orchard and playing. But I had people in my family that suffered child sexual abuse. And my childhood experiences as a sibling and observer of abuse really solidified for me that the key to changing it is to help people stop looking away.
Interview soft sticks.
I would like us all to take a couple breaths together.
My name is Maria Leonard Olson. My mom and my stepfather met at work. That man sexually abused me from ages 7 to 9. I have memories of that man that are very graphic. My mom, she was living in denial. I felt like there was no one who could protect me, and I hid it adeptly from everyone. And it worked for many years until it didn't, and I broke.
The part of our brain that deals with trauma can't tell time. And so what happens is trauma triggers come into people's lives, and instead of the brain saying, oh yeah, this is a memory from the past, instead a person's emotionally and physically experiencing this trauma like it's happening right now. It could appear everything as anxiety, depression, dissociation, substance use, out of control behaviors.
Which means that most adult survivors are stuck seeking help for their downstream symptoms and not the abuse itself. Like Maria.
I'm a civil litigation attorney, and from the outside, my life looked picture perfect. I belonged to a country club, a yacht club, but from the inside, I started to seek refuge in the bottle. I hid bottles all over our house. I kept some in the car, and I was driving carpool while drunk.
They're told it's not okay to talk about this issue. They're left to deal with it alone. That's why community is a critical part of the healing process.
Years later, I didn't want to live like that anymore. I said, I need more help.
Which brings us back to our central question here. What's actually happening out in the desert?
We have a retreat program that's designed for adult women who are sexually abused as children, and we were able to provide all our services for free. So they come and spend 4 days in person and learn through psychoeducation and experiential learning how to heal.
Trauma's held in our body. So there's things like trauma-informed yoga, art, music. Brains are amazing. We have neuroplasticity. And so as you work on making new neural pathways in responses to trauma, you can work on this space between a trigger and response, and then you have some time to respond and change how those trauma triggers are affecting you.
We also were encouraged to take bowls and smash them, and then glue them back together however we wanted.
Because there's beauty in the repair.
When you're surrounded by survivors, suddenly you realize that there's other people out there, that healing is possible.
I didn't know anything like this existed in the world. I was scared, but every person at Supriya really understood us, really got us, and taught me a lot of aspects of self-care that may not be immediately apparent to someone like me.
Research continues to show us over and over again that trauma often happens in isolation, but healing happens in community. They become more powerful and really get that solid base under them. They then can go home with a plan and become stewards of their own healing.
I have learned through my work that regret doesn't serve me. Today, I am safe, empowered.
And she's not alone. Supported by their cohorts, women leaving these retreats have reported a 37% decrease in their post-traumatic stress symptoms and a 45% improvement in overall life satisfaction.
Because they use those communities and those friendships to help them move forward in their healing process, and they are able to then contribute in significant ways to the world around them.
3 years after the retreat, Maria and her Supriya cohort stay in touch every week.
They are like sisters to me.
I've just become a whole lot more aware of myself and how I function with other people.
That's self-care. That's new for us, right?
Yeah, very new.
I was finally able to tell my mom who it was. It was really hard. I held her. I said, Mom, I forgive you. I forgive me. I'm okay.
When we decrease post-traumatic stress symptoms, translate that into real life. So this could be having the ability now to go back to school, excel in your career, be present with your children.
Beyond the retreat, Supriya provides accessible courses and education year-round. They say that by empowering community to be part of the solution, their efforts become preventative as well.
A child whose mother was sexually abused is 3.7 times more likely to be sexually abused themselves because mom is in and out of higher risk environments. And this is why we see generational abuse.
I am breaking the cycle of trauma in my family. I will be in these women's lives for the rest of my life.
When survivors feel like they're not alone, that they're not broken, that they're not crazy, and that there is hope and healing in community. That's the linchpin to helping society become liberated from child sexual abuse and its lasting impacts.
Stand Together partners with changemakers tackling our biggest challenges. To see more stories, follow our channels. And to learn more about how you can partner with us, go to standtogether.org.